Thank you for your patience. Greatly appreciate it. Good evening. Welcome to the January 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
I'm going to abstain because I was not able to view the meeting.
Okay, no problem.
So-
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
I did review the minutes from the last meeting, and I vote aye.
Okay. And chair votes aye. A few things before we get started. First of all, thank you all for your patience with our slight delay in getting started with the meeting tonight. Secondly, if you have cell phones on you, if you can do us a favor and silence them or turn them off because they interfere with our recording equipment. In addition, if you are inclined to speak to one another in the audience, if you can go in the hallway to speak rather than speaking in the auditorium, that would be greatly appreciated because that also interferes with our recording equipment. Lastly, in case of an emergency, the exits are on both sides here, should there be some reason for us to have to leave the auditorium. And with that said, we will get started with the agenda.
Okay, there are some changes to the agenda, so you know. Item 1 on the agenda, which is Marie Borelli, 61 Hampton Road, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-294-2-6.1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code 330-11-2F, accessory apartment special standards, to allow an accessory apartment to be located on a lot that is less than 10,000 square feet, and 330-11.2G to allow the total floor area, habitable living space of the accessory apartment to be 37.5% plus or minus of the total floor area, habitable living space in the main dwelling, where a maximum of 35% is permitted, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction.
I move that we adjourn this case to our January 16th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 3 on the agenda, which is William Williams, 3 New Ringneck Road, and Remsenburg slash Spion, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-381-2-42. I'll move that we re-advertise this application for our February 6th meeting.
Okay, it's a re-add, so we don't have to vote.
And then we're gonna move to the decision calendar. First thing I'd like to do is make a motion to reopen Mark Levin and Mariana Luce, the first 2 items on the agenda, so that we can get, receive written submissions by February 6th.
Do we have a second to the
Second.
motion? Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's reopened.
All right, I'll move that we close it now for a determination on those 2 for February 20th.
And also 2/6 for written submissions, as you said before.
That's it, yeah.
Yep. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
All right,
Mr. DeSessa.
aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, Donato Brothers Bay Ave Realty LLC and PMG LI LLC, move that we put that over to our January 16th meeting, excuse me.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, Oak Quogue Development LLC, I move that we reopen that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's reopened.
And then, the reason we reopened it is for written submissions.
For new testimony.
for new testimony.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna push this over to our January 16th meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
All right, now we can get down to business. Item 2 on the agenda is Michael Paddock, 72 Fanning Avenue in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-266-1-2.1. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-77D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in residence districts to permit a rear yard lot coverage of 22.1%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted for the construction of an 18 by 32 swimming pool and any other relief necessary.
Is the applicant here? Oh, can you come up? I need your affidavit of posting.
Yep,
Yep, I need
you're
your
gonna see.
I need your affidavit of posting. Yep, I just need that affidavit.
The affidavit of posting.
Just
Looks
have,
looks like it might be with those green cards there.
These are the receipts from the returns.
I'm still figuring that out. Well, more than I do, though. Still figuring it out. I'm like only 7 years behind you, so.
Here, give it here.
Give it to our turn, please.
yep,
2020
that's
is the new
perfect.
year.
Did you
Better be
sign
followed
it?
up.
Yes, and somebody notarized it. Yes, and then I just need the green cards? Oh, no, this is a certification.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
No.
okay. Sure.
Okay, it's this one. Yes. Okay, did you post it? I did. Okay, then you sign it. That's it, thank you. Can I have that back? The board has jurisdiction.
Okay. So before I swear in and we get started, I just want to mention the other thing about our meeting tonight, which is, since we've been in this auditorium, our sound system has some challenges, unlike in the town boardroom. So if you speak like me into a microphone like that, then people can hear you. If you go away from the microphone and do, walk away to give something to our attorney or do something else, then people will have trouble hearing you. So if you can, do your best to speak into the microphone. And if there is more than one person here, you'll have to share a microphone. So as Brian and I are going to be doing during this meeting. Okay, and with that, I will swear you in. We're having a little feedback. Is it probably because I'm too loud? Okay, all right. So if you can raise your right hand, can you state your name and address?
Michael Patek, 72 Fanning Avenue, Hampton Bays.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. You can tell us about the application.
So we're asking for extra.
Sir, I'm the lead on your case, so I really need you to speak loudly into the microphone and very slowly.
You can bring the microphone close to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably would help.
Yeah.
And if I can't hear you, I'll put up my hand, and then you'll know.
And now we're having feedback.
Killing us, you're killing us, Charlie.
This is what we're stuck with while we're in the auditorium. Sorry.
So, good evening. So we're requesting 2% over the allowed rear yard coverage to build a swimming pool. It's a corner lot, so we do have a big enough property, and the pool will still be within all setbacks required on a corner lot.
Okay. So this is an application for rear yard lot coverage, 20% to 22.1%, I believe
Correct.
is what it is. And looking at the survey, it looks like there's a lot on the property in terms of, you have very limited options in terms of where to locate the pool.
That's correct. By being a corner lot, having 2 front yards, it's...
Right. Okay. All right.
But that doesn't have anything to do with lot coverage, right? Having 2 front yards, does it?
It doesn't, but it means that the pool is not, it would need relief to be in a side yard or front yard.
It's for rear yard lot coverage, so it does affect it because the rear yard is constrained.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, so. In any case, wanted to ask, have you spoken with the neighbor to your south, to the south, who is the impacted property owner? And can you tell me what the conversation was?
Well, no, I never spoke to them. I did mail them the application.
Okay, yeah, didn't hear back?
No,
Okay,
I don't believe the owner actually lives there.
okay. All right. Want to ask about the size of the pool. It appears to be 18 by 32.
Correct.
One way we could reduce the lot coverage a little bit would be to reduce it to a 16 by 32 pool.
I have no problem with the 18. I investigated this space
Okay.
on several occasions, and I have no problem at all with the gentleman's request for this variance. So
Okay.
I do not see any need for a reduction of that pool. The yard is quite nice, well cared for, and of adequate size,
Oh, thank you.
in my estimation.
Okay. So I just want to ask, in terms of the other board members, whether we want to,
I'd like to see it 16 by 32.
yeah, whether we want it at the sizes proposed or whether we want to reduce it.
Yeah, what size would require no variance? I mean, what's that 2%? I don't know, but,
Well, I don't know what the answer is. Probably we have to get that information.
It's a very nice size.
Probably have to put it.
It would be about 20 by 10.
and that's too small for what you'd like to do.
Yes, and considering the cost of building the pool, after speaking to pool company, the cost is same for, bigger size. I save $2,000 and get a half a size pool. And I feel like, as an investment into the property, it may actually not, if I build the pool too small, it may not raise the property value. It may look, silly, because the yard is quite big. It's just being that corner lot, it's the area where I can place it, it's become very small.
It's also worth noting that there's a row of trees that exists between where the proposed pool is and the adjacent property owner to the south is going to be impacted.
Yeah, those trees are 12 feet tall. I do maintain them well.
Yeah.
I think I'm fine with the 18, just because of the trees and everything else.
Okay. So that's 2 for the 18.
See if anybody's here.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Patek for 72 Fanning Avenue in Hampton Bays? All right. So no neighbors are here. I'm okay with the 18 by 32. So
Gotta
question
count the
is
4.
whether
What's the next date?
you guys, you're okay with it? Okay, all right. Okay. So, if there are no further questions, Helen, you have the lead.
We'll have a decision on, the hearing is closed, and you'll have a decision on the 16th?
Yep.
The 16th of January.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, have a good night.
Thank
You
you.
don't have to be here next time, you can just give Candace a call the next day.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Good
Thank you.
night. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, that's
Item 4 on the agenda is Alfred Stainer and Victoria Stainer, 163 Church Lane in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-86-4-8.1. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-77D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in residence districts for a rear lot coverage from the permitted 20%, 1,874 square feet to 37%, 3,482 square feet, to permit the construction of a proposed tennis court and any other relief necessary.
Court has jurisdiction?
Good evening.
Good evening, Kieran Pate Murphy of Counsel Burke and Sullivan for the applicant. Tonight I'm here for a property that's located in Bridgehampton. It's located in an R20 zone, and it contains 48,062 square feet, so that's twice the required amount of property for this zoning district. It is 156 feet wide and 312 feet deep. It was purchased by the applicant in June of 2019. The property was formerly improved with a one-family dwelling and a detached garage, which were pre-existing, and a pool was added in 1995. After purchasing the property, the applicant applied for and received a permit to demolish the existing structures and has a permit for a new house and pool. And that permit is valid. This application is to request for construction of a proposed tennis court in the location showed on the survey. The tennis court as proposed will meet or exceed all required setbacks, but will exceed the allowed 20% of the required rear yard coverage by 17.2%, which would be 37.2%. It's a tennis court that will be 55 by 115. There's a wood fence located on the property line to the west of the property, closest to the proposed location of the tennis court. The only property affected by the proposed location of the tennis court is the property to the south, and we have received a letter of an affidavit of consent, which I'd like to hand into the record,
Yeah, if you maybe bring it
Okay.
forward to if you're a little bit closer.
Okay,
so people can hear you.
yes. It's,
So why can't we have this tennis court be 55 by 110? Because that's what we do when we have variances for tennis courts.
we could, that's something that the owner would consider.
Okay?
Also, another possibility would be to, it's 25 feet, it's at an angle, and the one setback in the backyard is 25 feet. That could go back another 5 feet to 30 feet. And that would reduce the setback, but I don't
The
have.
recommendation of the building department was to see if we can move it further to the north and away from the rear property line.
So I could move it
North.
north. And,
And 55, they don't say that, but I'm suggesting, I'm just one board member, 55 by 110, further to
Okay.
the north.
I
Okay.
think that's fair, what we've been doing as a board.
okay.
It's consistent. And it's not sunken and it's not it's gonna be
There
fenced
is,
or screened?
there is gonna be screening in the back, and that's what the neighbor in the back wanted, that has the large property, which I think you have the aerial photograph, where he has the pool pretty close in the back.
You would just screen
I
that
do
whole
have
property
a-
line. That's all.
He has it, yeah, I have that, and I also have the neighbor to the east.
Could they move the whole court outside to comply? I mean, they have a
It
lot
will
of
be
yard.
closer, it will be closer to the houses on both sides, if they move it closer to the proposed house. It'll be closer, might be further back, they're away from.
Have you heard from any of those neighbors?
I have the one to the east. I have a,
Why are they building a court east-west?
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
asking, 'cause
I
usually
know,
it
I
goes
don't know,
north-south, and that could reduce
north-south,
the
that's
relief.
true, that's true. That's a good point.
Sounds like you may want to have a conversation with your client about this all around, and maybe come back to us.
I think that might be a good idea. Maybe the suggestion is to make it, just to be clear, 55 by
110,
by 110.
further to the north.
Move it closer north.
And then
That way you
this-
keep all the noise from the pool and the tennis court in general area.
Okay.
And then the other thing is the question really that Brian had, which is a good question, as to whether you could actually move the tennis court altogether, so it is a different configuration, north-south rather than east-west.
Which is typically what tennis
Typically,
courts
tennis courts are north-south,
Yes.
north-south, because you can't play east-west.
Yeah.
are. You're right.
That's what I'm told.
Right,
I don't
no,
play-
yeah,
I don't
I
play
just
tennis, but
realized,
that's what they
yeah,
tell
no,
me.
I do play tennis, so,
But looking at the survey,
yes.
I think
Maybe there is a, yeah, make
Well,
it
They can
north.
play tennis, it's just got the sun in their eyes, that's all.
that's all.
Yeah, no. No, that's a good,
I-
that's a
wasn't-
very good suggestion.
Yeah,
and,
but where the proposed pool is would have to be moved as well, if you were to do that,
Okay,
I would think.
All right,
I mean,
so-
Just looking at the survey, it does not look like you'd be able to keep the pool exactly where it's being proposed and have a tennis court north-south, because,
I'm not saying you have to do north-south, I was just wondering why typically people want.
but also the idea of moving
Curiosity killed the cat.
closer to the house.
yeah. And actually, if moving it north to the house would probably,
Or maybe north-south and
well,
maybe
if it was
be-
north-south,
be less.
it may have less impact on the neighbor to the east, but, you know,
Yeah.
on the other hand, the whole trying to move it to the north kind of goes somewhat
Right,
out the
it's,
window,
you're
because,
still at the east-west.
yeah, because you're still gonna be in that rear yard.
Okay, that's something that I will, I guess, ask, well, I guess I don't know if there's anybody from the public.
Yeah, and I don't know, there may be neighbors here, so.
I
we'll
do
also
have,
see through it,
the
so.
letter of consent, I would just like to hand into the attorney for the neighbor to the east.
It's rear yard lot coverage is the relief that's been requested.
Okay, just for the record, this letter also talks about the condition of appropriate vegetation screening, Karen, so they'll need a plan for that.
Okay. And then I do have another one, if I can find it here, I was just given this folder. Okay, so,
Mr. Tuttle was also asking about the pool, even though you're not asking for relief for the pool.
right. If it was moved closer.
It would move closer, but also maybe reduced in size. But again, that's not part of the application, so I think it's really more of figuring out the layout of the whole thing.
Or smaller in size?
It wouldn't change your lot coverage.
I know, just,
It's not gonna change the rear lot, that pool's not the rear
No,
lot?
because the pool's outside of the rear yard.
it's outside.
Yeah, but if they move the pool, then they
But if
move the
you-
tennis court.
I understand, you're talking about if we move everything back, or north-south, or maybe a north-south pool, I don't know. But that's a good idea, so. All right, great, so I do have another, I guess if there's anybody from the public.
Yeah, want to see.
I do.
Okay, are there any other questions of members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who would like?
Yeah, could I just say, I'm looking on Google Maps, and I don't see too many other tennis courts around that area, especially like on Church Lane. I mean, there's a few and larger properties behind it. And I have a problem with almost doubling the size of lot coverage from 20 to 37 and a half. I'm not in favor of that.
Well, it's going to be reduced a little when we reduce the size of the tennis court. And also, if the tennis court is moved to the north, if it continues to be east-west and is moved to the north, that rear lot coverage, I think, is going to be reduced significantly because part of the tennis court will be taken out of the rear yard.
Well, I'd be open to hearing about that, but
Yep.
at this point, I'm not in favor of this application.
Yep, okay,
We're gonna leave it open anyhow.
We're gonna see if anybody's here.
absolutely. Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Stainer for 163 Church Lane in Bridgehampton? You feel free to come on up. You can go to the podium or come here. We're just going to ask that you share a microphone.
That's probably better.
Okay.
That's better, right? Can you hear me? Because that one barely works. My name is Alejandro Saralegui.
Okay, I just have to swear you in.
Oh, sure,
You can
sure.
Unless you're an attorney. So if you can state your name and if you state your address, please.
My name is Alejandro Saralegui. I reside at 59 Hildreth Lane in Bridgehampton, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and you can tell us about your Thoughts on the application?
I'm in accordance with Michael Daly. I don't believe that a tennis court belongs on Church Lane. I don't believe that there should be a 100% increase virtually 100% increase in lot coverage. I know you're thinking that it might change if the applicant changes their application, but at the moment, I don't think that that's an appropriate spot for a tennis court. This is a village area. I live 2 blocks from this house, straight down the street. I pass it every day. It's a big house on, in what was a very charming village street.
But you live 2 blocks from
I live
the
2 blocks
property.
away.
You're not an adjacent property owner.
I'm not an adjacent property, no.
Okay.
Close, but not.
Okay.
Alejandro, can you spell your last name, please?
Sure, it's S as in Sam, Aralegiui.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate your
That's it.
comments.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard?
Hi, I'm Kathleen Conway, and I
Kathleen,
live
and your address, please?
330 Ocean Road, Bridgehampton, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and are you an adjacent property owner to this property?
No.
Okay.
I'm down the way, and I'm also a longtime Bridgehampton resident that
Okay.
believes that a 1.1 acre lot that has had every tree that was on the property taken down, every single tree. The house was built very close to the road to get this variance approved, so that there could be the house, the pool, the tennis court, with 37% coverage on what was a tree-covered property. I mean, I know that we don't have the amount of trees like over on Deerfield that you can say the percentage that you can, remove. I've also talked to neighbors on both sides. They had no idea that this was happening. It was originally sent out as 63 Church Lane. It only got corrected last week. So I don't know if the neighbors were the correct neighbors that got notified.
We, as you saw in the very beginning of the public hearing, we verified that the neighbors were sent the certified mailings.
Okay.
It was only the
well,
agenda that had the address wrong, not the mailing.
Okay, well, the neighbor to the west, whose house is for sale, right there along that wooden fence that you're proposing it go closer to that, they had no idea. The house to the left, I spoke with them.
Feel free to ask them to come to the next public hearing.
Well,
date,
I tried,
okay?
but
Well, we're gonna be, this public hearing's being kept open, so they're
Okay.
welcome to
yeah,
write a letter.
but see, they
or
didn't
to
know
come to the meeting.
63. I sent it to them. They were like, that's not the property.
Public hearing.
A lot of people walked around looking for 63 Church Lane, which there is none.
No,
So this was
but you-
163.
But you passed on information on the agenda that was incorrect. All of the people that were mailed the application, it said
Okay.
163.
Okay, well, all I'm saying is that the person to the right did not know, confirmed by the agent Jason Schomer, who has the listing for sale. They had no idea. And the house to the left, I spoke to on New Year's Eve, they had no idea. And they had asked their attorney to be kept up on what's going on with the adjacent properties. They had no idea. He's willing to write letters and stuff, which he will. I didn't know how long the ZBA situation goes on for. But, I don't think there was a lot of notice. I don't think there was.
There was a statutory notice that was required. There was obviously an error in the agenda in terms of the street address, but the
Right.
requirements that we have in order to have jurisdiction over this
yeah.
application were satisfied.
Okay. Needless to say, I think 37% instead of 20 is ridiculous. And then it says for relief. What kind of relief when you are building a 15,000 square foot house without buildings, a pool, and a tennis court on a 1.1 acre piece of property?
The relief is for rear yard lot coverage for the tennis court only. All other structures on the property are not before us, so they have to comply with whatever zoning requires. Okay? And as far as the tennis court goes, before you spoke, you heard the concerns of members of this board.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
going to see revisions to this application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Just as you're coming up, I just want to say it's another moment to remind everyone that whatever address you have with the Southampton town is the address that your notices get sent to. So sometimes people move and they have an address, let's say in New York or on Long Island. They move out here permanently. They give up that address. If they don't update their address in the town records, the mailings for these type of things go to the old address, and we see that happen all the time. So please remind, yourself and remind all of your neighbors to make sure their address is current with the town.
It's a
Okay,
very good suggestion.
okay, just have to swear you in as well. If you can state your name and address, please.
My name is Pamela Harwood. My address is 371 Woodland Drive in Bridgehampton.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you tell us your comments.
Good evening, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Pamela Harwood, and I chair the Citizens Advisory Committee in Bridgehampton. I am reaching out to you this evening because this application has sparked a tremendous amount of concern on the part of civically minded residents. I thank you for the opportunity to address you about these concerns. I would like to begin by reminding you, and please don't interrupt because I know that some of this has been covered, but I'll tell you why I'm repeating it. One of the jobs that I have as a CAC chair is to reach out to the community. We have CAC members, and we also have a tremendous email list of community residents that have asked to be apprised of the events that go on in Bridgehampton, including things such as this. And when the agenda comes to me, I forward that agenda and say, here's the agenda. If there are any topics, you can go to the hearings yourself. You can get back to me. So when I receive an agenda with an incorrect address, that is going out to, over 100 people. And I myself walked around Church Lane looking for number 63, looking like a real idiot, and I couldn't find it. It took a while for me to realize it was number 163. So that is, when you say it's in the newspaper, when you say you've done a mailing to contiguous neighbors, but we have a larger community. So I just wanted to make that point. And knowing how important this feedback is to neighbors in determining the ZBA determinations, we are concerned whether or not all parties have had the opportunity to learn about this application and today's hearing. This hearing is taking place the very next day after Christmas and the New Year holiday week, and we wonder whether you have received confirmation that all neighbors have received the notice of this hearing. As we know, they haven't. As you know, Bridgehampton has many full tax-paying but seasonal residents who do not have local mailing addresses or may not be here to read the newspaper announcements or see the on-site notice of the hearing, which on workdays is obscured by what I'm told are, a huge amount of trucks, so most people didn't even see the sign on the site. And I take your point, Mr. Daly, about the fact that people should keep their addresses up to date, and I will gladly pass that on to as many people as I can. I think it's a great idea. But if you're a seasonal resident or you're a weekend resident, and this is a holiday week, and you're down in Antigua, say, and you live in a doorman building in Manhattan, and that's your official mailing address, your doorman can sign it. Someone could have certified, they can sign it, doorman got it, but the residents don't have it, neighbors don't have it. So that's not a foolproof system during a holiday period.
What would you suggest as a
I
foolproof system?
suggest that I suggest that first of all, it's maybe more. How much notice do you give when you send out the mailings? I don't even know that.
I believe it's
10
10
days.
10 days.
Well,
And that's according to the town code.
January 2nd, if you went away for the holidays for 2 weeks, which many people do, and schools are closed and so forth, 10 days might not cut it for people who've gone away during school breaks and holidays. So it's a
Then maybe you
thought.
want to have a conversation with the town board about changing the notice requirements for our board.
Yeah,
So it's the
We have no
town board.
control, it's the town board, it's
Yeah,
not
I
our
didn't know
board.
if it was New York State
The
even, because
town
I know
doesn't shut
this is
down
a New
for
York
business
State
'cause of the
mandated
holidays.
body.
I mean, they probably collected a lot of tax dollars too, because the
Oh,
doors are.
so, okay, definitely do that. I didn't know whether it was you, New York State, or the town board.
Town board.
So I think that's a great
Town board.
suggestion. Be glad to do that. Because I'm sure it must come up every year. We will-
Not really, but it's okay, it's still,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
up to them to make, if they want to make a change, they can make a change.
I think that's a great idea. I think I'll suggest it. Whether or not they'll do it, I don't know. We believe that the effect, I believe that one of the determinations that the ZBA has is the character of the neighborhood. Will this application change the character of a neighborhood? We believe that the effect on the character of this neighborhood, in this case, Church Lane, is one of the oldest and most charming streets in our hamlet, with a concentration of 19th century historic homes not to be seen on most other Bridgehampton streets. Many homeowners on Church Lane have chosen to purchase on this street because of its historic and charming ambience, and have also chosen to restore rather than tear down such endearing houses to maintain the character of their properties and the value of their properties because of this historic street. And so it was particularly disturbing to many in Bridgehampton when the 19th century home that was on this site was torn down, followed by the building of an oversized house compared to the small lot, and now the variance request for a 17% more backyard lot coverage than is allowed. There's also the question of whether or not a tennis court is considered a necessary addition. This property is newly purchased by the applicant, who bought the property knowing it is too small for a tennis court and the pool and such a large house under the current town zoning laws. Why is this application therefore deserving of relief? There are many other Bridgehampton properties that are large enough for this amenity without needing variances and without being so close to neighbors. Several area residents have referred to the noise that neighbors will hear from the tennis balls bouncing back and forth on the hard surfaces, as well as the shouting that will inevitably occur with a tennis court so close to the property line. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard? Okay, if not,
I would just
Yes.
like to hand in some.
Did you want to speak?
okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure, okay. So set to swear you in unless you're an attorney.
Sure.
If you can state your name and address.
Peter Fader, 371 Woodland Drive.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
Yes,
but
I
the
do.
truth?
Yeah.
Peter, how do you spell your last name?
F as in Frank, E-D-E-R.
And Peter, are you an adjacent property owner?
No, I'm not. I live I'm north of the highway, but I drive by it all the time. And I have to say, when I drove by today, I was absolutely amazed at the size of the house that was being built there. From the street, it looks like if you were mowing the lawn, you'd have to take the lawnmower through one side, through the den to get to the other side of to get to the backyard. I mean, the setback.
So you're talking about the size of the house?
The size of the house is gigantic.
The
It's
size of
not-
the house is conforming with zoning. If you,
really
if you,
not
if you,
even-
if you have an,
it's-
if you have an issue with the size of the house, like,
Well,
as
my
I mentioned
only
about the
question
other
is-
issue, excuse me,
Yeah.
as I mentioned with the other issue, feel free to have a conversation with the town board. We don't legislate. this-
Okay,
what-
my
what-
only,
what is-
my
what
only
is-
point was,
Yep.
if I could finish, and then I'll sit down, is you're building a 15,000 square foot house, and now you're asking for almost double the relief for the backyard for a tennis court, where no one else on the street has a tennis court. So it's not really in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. Maybe if they had made a sacrifice and made only a 10,000 square foot house, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
and I think you heard our concerns about the application too, so we're
Right,
in
well,
agreement.
I
that-
just think it's a case
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
it's easier to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Okay.
I guess that's how it looks.
Okay, no, the thing I just wanted to mention is, there may be people throughout the town who think that houses go up, structures go up that are too big. And that is because the current zoning code in the town has, sizes that it allows. And people are building bigger houses because the code allows for it. So the remedy, if any, to that has to do with the town board, not our board. I just wanted to make that clear. Okay. All right, is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, I would just like to just follow up with, I do have a letter of consent from the neighbor directly behind who has the large lot with the tennis court, asking for a buffer. I'd like to submit that into the record. And again, the property to the east submitted a letter, which Katie mentioned. They also wanted to have screening. And the third thing is, there is another tennis court in the area, which I think you have this aerial photograph showing that. And again, asking for an adjournment to go back to the owner and discuss these ways to reduce the variance, so that it's not so large. And, you know, and just point out that it is behind the property. It's unfortunate that an old house was torn down, but it's already happened, and that's what's going on in Bridgehampton. As someone who grew up in Bridgehampton, I've seen all the changes, you know, and again, I thank you for taking the time to listen to this variance, and I will go back
How much
and
time you
talk to
need?
my client.
How much time you need?
Okay.
I-
If you
I-
can
I
you just
will-
move the microphone
Okay.
closer. This is our sound
Just to
system.
to
Sorry.
summarize that, I will go back to the client. There are many suggestions here to reduce the requested variance of 37%, to reduce it, and also maybe change the configuration. Second, the property to the east has consented, but asked for, doesn't have a problem with the tennis court, but it wants some kind of buffer. The tennis court in the back, the property directly behind, doesn't have a problem with it. They have a tennis court, and they want a buffer. And there's also another tennis court in the area. And finally, as someone who grew up in Bridgehampton, I've noticed all the changes, but this is, again, just for a tennis court. The size of the house is not relevant, as the chairman has pointed out. And I respectfully request that you put me on a future agenda to continue this discussion.
How much longer would you need to go back to your client?
Maybe,
What's our
can I put it
February
for the
date?
next one and then maybe ask for longer? Because I need to get this, find a surveyor. I could not get him today, to be honest. He was hard to track down.
You think 2 weeks is?
Yeah, can I put it on, and then I'll ask for another 2 weeks if I can't get a hold of the surveyor, who might be on vacation. He just was not available today to discuss, you know, further
Okay.
changes.
If you want to go to the microphone, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, a couple of things. I believe that one of the determinations.
Yeah, I'm sorry, if you can state your name for the
Oh,
record.
again, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Pamela Harwood. Is that all?
That's all.
Okay, Pamela Harwood. Is there any way that this tennis court can be built without needing variances?
Well, I
Right?
think that's what they're gonna go back and
No,
say.
you have a reduction of the size of this tennis court. This
I
tennis
actually-
court,
I actually
we-
asked if she could move the
well,
court.
can I finish?
Yes.
Thank you. If the house was made smaller, there would be room for the tennis court without a variance. There would be even room for the full-size tennis court without a variance. So when you say that the size of the house is not relevant here, well, if the house was made smaller, the tennis court would fit, right? So these are the opportunities that one has to make it all work. You can put in the swimming pool, you can put in the tennis court, you can put in the house, but everything can be made smaller. You do have that opportunity to make the house smaller, right? So to me, the house size is relevant. The other thing that my colleagues have asked me to ask is the property in back, we believe is 3.3 acres. This property is 1.1 acre. So if they have a tennis court, which, by the way, you know, is not on Church Lane, I think earlier it was said this is the only tennis court on Church Lane. This is a flag lot behind it. But they have that's 3 times the amount of property. So therefore, they might not have needed any variances to do what they wanted to do, and the sound to the neighbors and everything else wouldn't impact it as much. So these are things to be taken into account. Make the house smaller, no variance is needed.
I appreciate the suggestion. It is true that reducing the size of the house might be helpful in terms of dealing with whether they need variance relief and what variance relief they need. On the other hand, it's a very tricky thing for us as a board to ask an applicant to take a conforming structure that conforms to the zoning code and reduce its size when it's already conforming. So it's a little bit tricky there, but they could do it. I mean, they certainly aren't prohibited from doing it. Yeah, go ahead. And again, if you state your name for the record.
It seems to me like with the
If you
the
can state,
house.
I'm sorry, if you can state your name for the
Peter
record,
Fader.
please.
I just did, Peter Fader.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. It just seems to me when someone buys a lot and then knocks down all the trees and everything else, they've got a plan for that lot. Okay, they're gonna build a house, they're gonna do, there's a certain market basket that goes with that, owning a home in the Hamptons. Big house, tennis court, and a pool. So when you say that, well, we can't comment on the size of the house because that's
I
conforming.
didn't say we can't comment on it.
Right, well, it's-
What I said is that when you have a conforming structure, it's very slippery.
But
It's a slippery-
only
it's a when
only
when
if
you're
you-
talking about
right.
everything on the property, when
Right.
the only thing they're
Yes.
asking for relief for is for the tennis court.
Yes, but but the reason why you're asking for relief for the tennis court is because of the size of the house, right? And the
I
pool.
don't know about that. I don't know if you heard what we all were talking about, okay? But we're suggesting a couple of things. And
Right.
Mr. DeSessa was trying to say that, but he wasn't
Right,
able
well,
to finish
I
it.
can
But
appreciate
but there were two
your
things.
position, but
If you
what
take a
my-
look, bear with me for a second. Take a look at the survey, okay? The survey, the issue is rear yard lot coverage, not lot coverage, rear yard lot coverage, okay? So if we can get the tennis court out of the rear yard, they don't need relief. Or if they get it out of the rear yard enough, they won't need relief.
Well, I guess my suggestion, if I could finish my thought, was that if you were to present everything all at once, the size of the house, the tennis court, and the pool, then maybe we wouldn't be in the situation that we continue to find ourselves. That's all I'm saying.
The house didn't need relief, sir.
Well, yeah, okay, well, it doesn't need relief
Recognize
because
that.
that's
Try to
conforming.
recognize that, okay?
What?
Try to recognize that.
Well,
The house is not before us.
yeah, it doesn't solve the problem. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, and we have concerns about this application too. We're actually thinking in the same way, just the question is the way to go about addressing, the issue of the relief of the tennis court. Okay, and one more, and from each of you, and that's it, folks, okay?
Pamela Harwood. I just wanted to know, may I have a copy of the survey? We haven't seen anything like that.
Do you have an extra copy?
I can't remember if it happens at ZBA meetings as well as planning boards, but there's usually stuff on the walls for us to view.
Yeah.
And there isn't tonight, so if I could have
This
that.
isn't the planning board.
Yep.
This is the zoning board.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Sir? If you state your name again, please.
Yeah. Alejandro Saralegui. Just two questions, two thoughts. One is the property behind this house with the 3 acres with the tennis court. I don't know where their house is, so they might be fine having a tennis court in the back of this property.
Definitely.
Because they're not going to hear it.
Because there's such a big lot, I'm not.
So I have no idea.
Probably that tennis court was conforming, didn't need any relief.
No, I don't care about that. I don't care about their tennis court.
Yeah.
I'm saying the new potential tennis court.
It didn't really.
I'm saying if the house is far away, where these people reside is far away, they're not going to hear the tennis as much as the immediate neighbors. Then my other question is, I'm just curious to know where the other tennis court on Church Lane is, and if anyone knows the size of the property, because of the same question.
Hi, I would just say in the area, the aerial photograph.
Okay, I'm
I
just
don't
curious.
have, I don't have all of Church Lane.
If we don't know.
But also, the house behind did have to get a variance for the tennis court,
But that, I'm not.
from 30 feet to 23 feet.
That's not.
And
That's not. Sorry. Go ahead.
Also, I have an aerial photograph of the pre-existing house, and it looks like it probably would have needed a variance if you had kept the existing house.
Yeah. And
When would you like to come back?
I'm gonna put it.
I would like to, can I ask for 2 weeks and then request another 2 weeks?
Do we have room on the agenda in 2 weeks?
do we have, we do.
And if I don't have a revised survey, can I ask for another 2 weeks?
Ask for a second adjournment. So we're going to be adjourning it, folks, until
Great.
January 16th, but it may be that date may get adjourned because the applicant may not have everything,
I have to go back to the surveyor.
May not have everything then, so if you can, not all of you, but maybe one of you check with Candace
Yeah.
before the meeting on the 16th.
But, if we don't know where this other tennis, if we're saying the character of the neighborhood doesn't really have tennis courts, because it's lots of small lots, and you're telling me that there's a tennis court in the neighborhood, I'm just curious to know where that other tennis court is.
The applicant will provide that information to the board.
Thank you. And then back to the question on the house behind it, my question isn't whether they had a variance or not. My question is, where is the house? Because if the house is far away from the proposed tennis court, they're not going to hear the tennis balls. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, you know, that's out, that's in,
Well,
that's out, that's in.
Let me put it this way, okay?
But they said no, they said they don't have a complaint, so I
Okay.
get it, but.
So, you know, a couple of things. First of all, Ms. Murphy, I suspect, would be, you know, glad to provide information. If you want to make a request, I think she will make us, I'm pretty sure she'll make herself available if you have questions or have information you want. Secondly, if you want to requisition, you know, a survey of an adjacent property or a property that has a tennis court and submit that information to us, you're welcome to do that as well.
I'm just curious. I just have a question. I'm just a neighbor.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Jason, could you make a
I'll make-
motion to hold this over to 116 for all purposes?
I'll make a motion to adjourn this for all purposes to January 16, 2020.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Todd.
Okay, Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa. Chair votes aye. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Item 5 on the agenda is Richard Hurdle, 12A Warner Road in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-264-2-33. Excuse me, applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for a proposed two-story dwelling with covered porch and a non-conforming lot. 330-11 residential districts table of dimensional regulations for a principal minimum side yard setback of 17 feet where 20 feet is required, and total use side yard setback of 34 feet where 45 feet is required, and 330-84D pyramid height for a total proposed encroachment in the amount of 687 cubic feet, 379.5 cubic feet on the north side, 307.5 cubic feet on the south side, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening. Just have to, unless either of you attorneys, I have to swear you both in, and you're going to have to share the microphone. So sorry about that. So if you can state your names and addresses.
Louis Puccio, 148 East Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays.
Okay.
Richard Hurdle, 14 Vienna Court, Staten Island, New York.
And do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can tell us about the application.
Yes, this is, what happened was I bought this property back in 1984, and I bought it intending to someday move out here and build a home. And basically, I met the girl, my life, and we had 4 kids, and we're ready to move out here and start, you know, living a suburban life. Right now, we live in New York City. We live in a cramped, like, townhouse, and it's just, we're looking to move in and enjoy, you know, a suburban lifestyle.
Peace and quiet.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So you're looking for relief for a 2-story residence with covered porch?
Yes.
So maybe you can tell me about the relief you're requesting. So the first is principal minimum, looks like side yard setback, 20, I think around 20 feet to 17 feet.
Yeah, on each side.
On
Right.
each side. Yep.
Right.
Yep, okay. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about why you need the relief.
Well, what it is, my wife wants a Victorian home. We came across a Victorian home, and that was what she fell in love with. And what it is that the lot size is what we have, or what I bought as, and we're trying to, we like to get the house built with these dimensions on it. We saw the plans, and we thought it'd be reasonable for our size family, with not the kids or anything. From where we're living right now, we thought that'd be, you know, within a sizable, would fit out with our family size.
All right. And so pretty much the relief is from the, looks like the north and the south. The two yards with measurements of 17 feet.
Yes, sir.
And also a small amount of pyramid relief, at least from our standards, 687 cubic feet.
Okay, very, yes, sir.
And maybe you can tell me a little bit about the pyramid relief.
Well, what it is it's a Victorian home, and we looked at different roof styles than what the Victorian would require, and it just wouldn't look right. The house wouldn't look right, and my wife had the dream of, with the porch and the Victorian home, and set the whole colonial Victorian home, and we looked at different roof styles, and it just wouldn't look right, and,
I fell in love with the house. and him.
That's it. Absolutely.
Okay. So I kind of, I'll give you my perspective in a couple of ways on this. On the one hand, and I don't know whether you've heard from any of either of your neighbors that are impacted. Okay. On the one hand, it appears to be a very modest amount of relief. 20 feet to 17 feet on either side is pretty modest relief, and the pyramid relief is modest. On the other hand, I have no doubt that you could build a house that conforms, where you wouldn't need relief at all. But, so this is just something that you want, as opposed to a limitation on the property that makes it impossible for you to be able to conform. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's really a variance by choice, as opposed to one where people have no alternative but to ask for variance relief. Again, speaking for myself, because you want to have a certain look and a certain style of the house, and you want to have a certain dimension. I mean, this is 6 feet. If you had the house 6 feet less in size, you'd be conforming.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of what it is. So the plus in this from your perspective is that I think we may hear from neighbors tonight. I'm not sure, but the impact on the neighbors would not be that significant, I don't think. On the other hand, you could build a conforming house.
Well, and there is an email from a neighbor as well.
Okay. And why don't we go to the email from the neighbor?
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Mr. Puccio?
Yeah.
Were you the person who filled out this application?
Yeah,
You did?
yeah.
In the future?
I don't make it either.
Pardon me?
Make it either.
No, you can't even read it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, I don't know if you did it with.
I'm gonna start doing it on Adobe.
I think you should at least
I
use a
am.
pen. Did you use a pencil?
Yeah, no, I use a pen.
You used a pen because it is totally.
I'm gonna use Adobe.
Pardon me?
No, I wanna use Adobe. It fills in the blanks on a computer.
Well, and one of the complaints from the neighbor who wrote the email is that her application didn't identify how much pyramid relief was required. So, she said it just says pyramid relief, so that needs to be filled out as well.
Why don't you come over here a minute?
No, he has the
I just wanna
application.
show-
He's got it, Helen.
Does he got it?
Yes, he's got it.
Well, Mr. Grossman was trying to express to you, which, it's not like you have a constrained piece of property, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Because you do appear
And we
before
can't
us.
have two conversations going on at the same time. We can't do that with the recording system. Okay. I'm sorry, Keith.
No, I'm just trying to
Yep.
back you up as to what you said. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. I would prefer to see a house that conformed, because you could build one.
We see this all the time, you know?
I don't know if you could build one.
The wife wants what she wants, and your job is to go get it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but right now, it's only like gonna be 2,100 square feet approximately. Right now, we're like in a 1,400. We decided, we said to ourselves, we get to anything smaller, and it's not like any more than what we're going for right now, and we're already cramped in the town, where we're living right now.
On the other hand, you could design it so that it goes further east instead of north and south.
You can have the
You
space
can have the house
with a different
go
design.
that way, so to make it bigger and make it smaller, and I suspect it would conform.
I mean, that's possible, but changing the make it a hip roof or something, change the whole look of the
No,
house.
I think you can still need pyramid relief, because you only have an 80-foot wide lot. So even
Right.
if you were at 20
So
feet.
if they change it, make
you're
it
gonna need
narrower
some
and
pyramid
deeper,
relief.
and they get the pyramid law, the house look the same, but it won't encroach on the side of the setback.
All right, so we have a neighbor, Rosemary Wos or Was, who submitted an email to our board opposing the application. She indicated at the end of her email, a two-story dwelling does not fit into Warner Road, especially with the predominance of small lots, and on the side of my small property, it will affect my privacy due to the building closeness and my quality of life. To help with the privacy and quality of life issues, a fence would help. I want to ensure that no evergreens as arborvitae are planted as a screening that would encroach on my property. This information was not included in the documentation from the builder. I would also like to ensure that no one uses my property during the construction. I have put up cameras to ensure that this is monitored, and I will register complaints to the police and the town should construction activities impact my property. I would like to understand who in the town will help me if this should occur. So that's just the latter part of her email, but clearly she has concerns.
Would you be open to making it deeper and narrower, so that this way it doesn't have side yard setbacks, but keep the pyramid, but doesn't change the look of the house?
Well,
I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so then we'll work on that.
okay. Do you want to come back after you have revised?
Yeah,
plan?
when I get a plan done, I'll talk to Candace.
Well, we got to pick a date for you to come back tonight, so how much time do you think you would need to do that?
I'm coming back on the 6th, so I would say February 6th.
Okay, so you want to have that be the
Yeah.
adjourn date?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with the look of the house, I just think, and I think you're gonna need pyramid, because you have 80 feet. So at 20 and 20, you're still at 32 feet in height, you're gonna need some pyramid.
Yeah.
You can make it deeper, maybe do a drive into the side of the garage, so you can still maximize the widths there.
Okay.
Okay, in the meantime, I need to ask if anyone from the public would like to be heard. Any other questions from members of the board? Is there anyone who would like to be heard this evening, who's here in connection with the application of Hurdle for 12A Warner Road in Hampton Bays? Okay, if not, Keith.
Hearing, seeing no one, I'll move that we hold this open for all purposes to our February 6th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa. Chair votes aye.
February
Thank you very
6th.
much.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. See you on February 6th. Okay, thank you.
Okay, on the holdover applications, item 6 is Frederick Van Wyck. This is held over from our November 21st meeting.
Good evening, members of the board. We were here
Might want to get the microphone closer.
We were here in late November. The matter was adjourned. I wanted to just take a moment just to re-explain what it is we're seeking to do. Right now, the property has a single-family dwelling with a CO'd apartment on the second floor. What we propose to do here is we are going to abandon the approved apartment, which benefits from a decision of this board and a CO. And what we'd like to do is to build an accessory apartment in a detached structure. When we first got involved with this, meeting with the building inspector, we were instructed to simply revise request an amendment to the existing variance decision that permits the apartment in the single-family dwelling. Just so you know, the apartment and the variance, all that predates what we now look at as the accessory apartment law. The existing apartment in the dwelling contained approximately 1,300 square feet. Now, I advise the client to do is let's take this application and let's change the apartment so it conforms in all respects with the dimensional requirements, the area requirements, the square footage requirements pertaining to accessory apartments, which we have done. So that is what's before you. So the advantage to the client is he would have a new detached accessory apartment, albeit smaller than the one he has now. The advantage to the town is it brings him under the umbrella of the accessory apartment law. Right now, there are no controls over the apartment. You can rent it to anyone at any time for any reason. Under the accessory apartment law, there are certain controls such as the size that I just went through and various things. So that's what we're asking to do here. When we were here in late November. I'm sorry?
I might not have heard you right. Did you say that first apartment, you're eliminating that?
Will be eliminated.
So there'll be only.
There will only be one apartment. There's one apartment today. There'll be one apartment tomorrow, although albeit smaller than the apartment that exists today.
And that was part of the original presentation.
That is
That's not
correct.
changed.
But it was a difficult, I'm having a difficult time in this room because I'm having trouble hearing, and I think everyone is. It's a real, I can't wait to get upstairs.
Me too.
So I had trouble hearing, and so I might not have been clear, but that's what we're doing. We did hear testimony from neighbors, and Fred, who I've known for many years, was here today. He was questioning whether you could have a second building on the lot, and he made some questions about abandonment and all that. The board addressed that. There was a fellow named Mr. Williams who's here who was worried about the flooding on the road. I did take a look at that. And there is a puddle, but it has nothing to do with our property. Our property is actually lower than the road, so this property doesn't contribute to any flooding on Big Fresh Pond Road. And then we had a third fellow stood up who was trying to reduce clearing and objection to the circular driveway, and I mentioned to you folks that we would look into that and consider a design change, which we have done. I'm going to hand out revised surveys from Squires, Holden, Weisenbacher, and Smith, dated December 20th, 2019, that will depict the elimination of that circular driveway and the curb cut. The benefit to the community, I suspect, for that is it provides more screening between the road and the house. And I think I think it's an aesthetic concern. It's not a zoning concern, but nevertheless, we're happy to help out neighbors in this nice community. Just one?
Normally there's another microphone.
This is the menu for me. I need one more. If you have
one more, just for the file.
I have to put that in the file.
Do you happen to have any extras to give the people who have the concerns so that they can see what you?
And again, I think the concern was with the two cuts and the clearings that you're detracting from the front of the lot's wooded between the house and the road. So when we utilize the existing driveway, we're reducing the clearing that we previously, even though we're not under any particular clearing restriction.
How much did you reduce the size of the accessory apartment?
Well, the existing apartment is at 1,350, I believe, and the new one is at 1,000.
Okay. Have you reduced the size of the accessory apartment from what it was during the first public hearing, or is it basically the same?
No, it's the same. It was designed so that it would fit the accessory apartment law.
One story?
Yes, it's one story. There is a little loft area for utilities.
Okay. So the relief that you need at this point for the accessory apartment is pretty much having to do with what currently exists on the property?
Well, technically, the application is simply an amendment to an existing variance to remove the apartment that's on the second floor of the house and put it in this detached space. What we've simply done is, in that process, saying, if we're gonna do that, let's make it fit as if it were an accessory apartment, but we're not increasing the number of apartments. We're not asking for 2 apartments on the property. We're gonna keep 1, albeit smaller, and in a detached space.
Okay, but I remember in the last public hearing that there were concerns from, I guess, adjacent property owners about having the new, sound, the proposed accessory apartment being closer to them, as opposed to being in the house. So.
I don't recall that, but we're not asking for any dimensional relief. In fact, the setback for an accessory structure would be 90 feet off the road. This is at 100.
So the accessory apartment is gonna meet all the special standards, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. You don't need any relief.
And the owner of the property meets the standards for having an accessory apartment, a full-time resident, et cetera?
Well, he is going to become an accessory, a full-time resident. He's moving in that direction. That's part of his plan here. He wants to be able to actually have his mother stay in this, so he tells me, and then he's going to stay in the main house. So he's making that transition. It's not, and so it's not a true, it's not as if I had no apartment and I was coming in front of you for an accessory apartment. Under that rule, there are very specific standards. You know, we can make it that standard. He's willing to make it his principal dwelling. He's moving in that direction. It's going to take him time to refurbish his house, build this. It's going to take him probably a year to make that happen. But to answer your question, we expect a condition of the amendment to this enforced variance to say this will be treated as an accessory apartment.
In other words, and I mentioned this at the last public hearing, they're giving up an apartment that exists in the house that has no restrictions on it whatsoever and replacing it with an accessory apartment that has to live up to the standards of the accessory apartment law.
I think we need confirmation from the building department that it does live up to the standards set forth in the accessory apartment law, though. I mean, you can't just move it and say, oh, it's an accessory apartment. The lot is big. I mean, let's just have the building department confirm. It's over 30,000 square feet, all of the setbacks comply, there's only 1 driveway, the parking's not in the front yard.
But that's all right in front of you right now.
Let's just have the building department confirm that
Yes,
complies.
we started with the building department.
Yes, but the building department didn't write it up as an accessory apartment. It wrote it up as a modification to a prior variance.
Okay.
I mean, if it conforms, Bruce, it's gonna be a 5-minute
All you gotta do is
conversation.
Send it down there and let them take a look
All
at
right,
it,
send
that's
it
all.
down and have them take another look at it. That's fine.
Because otherwise, you know, it could be that if this relief were to be granted, you might end up having to come back if they reject it in the building department, and we don't want that to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I trust your word, but, you know, backup is always helpful.
Yeah, and Katie, that was my question too. I understand what you're saying, and I don't have a problem with.
This exceeds
It's just
greatly
what
any
do we
setback.
actually,
Or any size limitation.
what are we actually approving?
It's
I
too
just
much.
need some clarity on that.
Okay.
But luckily, we have a good attorney, so I'm sure we'll figure that out.
So when can you get this to us?
I'm not getting anything. The
You're
discussion
gonna
was,
refer it to the building
the
department.
board wanted to send it back to the building department. I don't know that I need to do anything.
No, you do. You're gonna,
Ball's in
you're
our
gonna.
court.
Right.
No.
Ball's in Kay's court.
No, the ball is not in my court.
You said you wanted to refer it to the building
Yeah, but we're not
department.
gonna fine, the ball is in my court. I will confirm that you don't need any other relief, and if you don't need any more other relief, then we can just close it.
Right.
Okay, any other questions or members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who'd like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Van Wyck, 101 Big Fresh Pond Road in North Sea? And I believe you were previously sworn in, but if you just state your name for the record.
Yes, Fred Vanderwerven, 37 Shore Drive in Southampton.
Okay, and you were previously sworn in, correct?
I was, yes, at the last hearing. I'm delighted to hear Bruce address the driveway problem. A number of our neighbors have written letters to the board. I think that you've seen a number of letters. Some of the major issues, the driveway was a major issue because it states that there can only be one driveway, and the way that it was initially proposed was with two driveways, with the circular driveway and the two curb cuts. So I'm delighted to see that that's been addressed, and thank you for that, Bruce. Another issue that a lot of people have problems with is the house size. And the maximum house size or accessory apartment size is 1,000 square foot. While bath and halls can be excluded from the total calculation, from the neighbor's point of view, we're looking at a 20 by 70 or a 1,400 square foot structure going into a property where none currently exists. Worth noting is to get to that 1,000 square foot, excluded is 400 square foot of halls and bathrooms, or 40% is halls and bathrooms to be excluded. Seems excessive to have that number, and I think some more inspection of the plans and the layouts is warranted, because it does seem excessive. The residency requirements, the first item in section 330.11.2 talks about the first item. A states that it must be the permanent residence, domicile, or principal place of residence. Bruce has somewhat addressed that, but it's currently not the case, in my opinion. And I think it's incumbent upon the applicant to demonstrate that this is in fact their primary residence.
If there were to be an accessory apartment approved, what would happen is there would have to be an application for the accessory apartment where whoever makes the application has to swear that either the primary structure or the accessory apartment will be used as a primary residence of the owner. So they have to do that as part of the accessory apartment application.
And is that going to happen?
Well, that's going to happen in terms of the application being submitted with that promise to the building department, as is the case for all accessory apartments.
Right. You know, the project, as I stated the last time, and most of the reason this is such a concern to the neighborhood is that it involves this whole transfer. The applicant was awarded approval for an accessory apartment back in 1995, 25 years ago, which formalizes an existing apartment that dated back to pre-1957, over 60 years ago. And the applicant is asking to simply modify or transfer this right that was granted to him. A small change, an administrative detail. Seems like quite a small thing, actually.
It's like torture. This is torture.
Sorry.
So the building department's gonna review it. We're gonna ask the building department to check the size of it, parking, all those items that you're bringing up, we had asked.
Oh, okay. Because from the neighborhood's point of view, we have an existing apartment and a dwelling. Impact on the neighborhood, basically minimal. In fact, I don't think it's been, quite honestly, I don't think it's been used in years. And to transfer this and now all of a sudden have a 1,400 square foot structure sitting in the front of the house seems like a pretty big deal. Now, I understand that the building department is going to be inspecting this and putting restrictions on it. It just doesn't quite seem right. I don't know if I'm stating that correctly. But in any case, that's the major concern of the neighborhood.
You're speaking tonight on behalf of the whole neighborhood, sir?
Pardon me?
You speaking on behalf of the neighborhood? Or
I'm
you
speaking
just
on
speak
behalf of
yourself?
I'm speaking on behalf of myself.
Okay,
But
sir.
you have the letters in the file that have been submitted that basically correspond to what I've been outlining here from my own point of view.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Dan Wick? If not, Michael.
Okay, you all right?
Well, that's a good question. So are we going to keep this open, Katie?
No, I mean, listen, Bruce is convinced that doesn't need any relief from the accessory apartment standards, so I think you can close it.
Okay.
Leave it open for written submissions from the building department to confirm that.
Okay.
I'll have a conversation with Dennis or Mike or someone, and we can put it on, assuming that's all true, we can put it on for a decision the first meeting in February.
What she said.
What day is that?
Sure, so
February
we can
6th.
close the public hearing, leave it open for written submissions, and we'll get those follow-up documents and put it on for a decision on February
6th.
6th.
But if you in fact don't find.
Correct. If it's determined that it does need, if it's determined that it does need some sort of relief from the accessory apartment standards, then there won't be a decision on the 6th, and we'll reopen it.
We'll be back in touch with
I
you
just
if
want to
needed.
point out that he's making, I thought I made this clear, he is making the transition. I expect the condition to say it has to be owner occupied.
Oh, sure.
We're not there yet.
No, I don't,
Right?
yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
So that's why it was treated as an amendment to an existing zoning variance.
sure, but you can't, I mean, that's where everybody's struggling, Bruce, because absolutely, if this thing really does conform, then arguably, if this
Then
thing.
arguably, I wouldn't be here.
Correct, correct.
But that's that's why we're here. I just want that
I
clear.
understand.
I don't know how to make it any clearer.
I know, and it's also confusing because, typically it would be an accessory apartment application with, dealing with the requirements of the accessory apartment law. Instead, we have a prior decision that's going to be revised to, as you indicated,
Exactly.
replace the existing apartment from a prior ZBA decision with the accessory apartment. I also just want to
And
mention.
conform with the standard. That's what
But it's
we're
gonna
expected to
conform. I mean-
say.
I also just want to mention that there was a letter that we got today from an attorney representing, I guess, an attorney who is a homeowner, that you made some, objections to the application. This is, the name of the attorney is John Simone Jr., and he questions whether we have the legal authority to be able to amend our decision. And
That's an easy one.
to do one. He questions whether site plan needs to be involved with
That's
this
an easy one.
application. He questions whether the notice of this public hearing is defective. He says no good cause or lack of hardship. No truck loading requirement shown, and no rational placement for affordable housing.
Okay.
So in any case, he makes his arguments. We will consider that as part of what we decide in connection with the application, along with the other comments, because we did get a few other letters and correspondence in connection with the application as well.
Can I ask a question? One thing I'm a little confused about. Did you say that in terms of the occupancy, that the occupancy is hypothetical, that the mother is?
No.
maybe-
What I'm saying is that as part of the grant of this amendment, okay, that this will become a principal residence of the owner, which is Bronson Van Wyck. It so happens that it's going to be a place for his mother to stay.
But
But
right
that's not a requirement of the accessory apartment. What is a requirement is that it be owner occupied. And the reason why it's an amendment rather than just a straightforward application is because it's not yet his principal, he's going to redevelop the house. He's not living there now.
Who's gonna live there?
Huh?
Who's gonna live there while he redevelops the property? Nobody.
Nobody.
Okay,
So it is not owner occupied?
it won't be occupied at all.
It's going to be owner occupied once the development
Once it's
takes
developed,
place.
yes.
But we don't know when that's going to be.
When it's finished.
When it's finished.
Well, if it's not owner occupied.
It'll take time to build it,
how can
yes.
we-
It won't be occupied at all. It won't.
And they're not obligated to live up to the accessory apartment law until they submit that
That's
application.
what I mean,
Well,
yeah.
until they submit the application, and that application won't be submitted until they have all the approvals for the accessory apartment, whenever that might be. It might be in 6 months, it might be longer, we don't know.
That's,
Anyhow, Michael's got a motion on the floor. Somebody second it?
It was seconded by
right.
Mr.
Can we vote,
DeSessa.
please?
Thank you.
Okay.
Move on.
Who seconded the motion?
Mr. DeSessa.
Okay, all right, Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa. Mr. Hahn. Aye. Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill. Chair votes aye. Thank you for
Thank you
being
very
here.
much.
Just take
Thank
out.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
That's what I thought.
You need to go to a microphone to ask a question.
so we get it on record.
Yeah, you have to go to a microphone.
It's closed, leaving it open for written submissions with a determination on February 6th.
Okay, February 6th, you'll make the determination.
That's correct.
And it's open until then?
No, it's closed except for written submissions.
for written submissions.
So we won't be having any more public hearings.
Okay, understand, but the public can submit additional letters?
Correct.
Up until that date?
Well,
Well, that would be.
Yeah,
A
understand.
week before that.
Yeah, it
Give
would
enough
be a
time.
week before February 6th in order for us to have everything in
Okay, I
place. So
think we're
let's-
gonna have to reopen the application in order to be able to do this.
To
okay?
articulate that?
Yes, okay.
Okay, so
So,
let's do that.
I'm
Mike, do
sorry.
you wanna make a motion to reopen the
I'd like
application?
to make a motion to
Do we have-
reopen this application.
Okay, do we have a second?
Of the
Second.
Van Wyck property.
Okay, Mr. Daly.
Um,
Do you need?
Now I
I'm
have
just
to
doing- I'm just
remember
doing the
everything?
vote. I'm just doing the vote.
oh, aye.
Okay, Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill. Mr. DeSessa. Mr. Hahn. Aye. Chair votes aye, we're reopened. So if you want to amend the motion on this?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing on this matter, leaving it open for written submissions
Okay.
until January 30th.
Okay,
Which will then, we will have time after January 30th to consider everything for a decision to be made on February 6th.
Second. Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa. Aye. Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill. Chair votes aye. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
thank you very much.
Thank you. I know. Do you want to take a break?
No, let's just go through.
Yeah.
We got
Do one of
We're gonna do
six.
one more and then we're taking
Take
a
it
break.
easy, Bubba.
Can I have your survey?
Well, at least say it correctly. You want to come to my house and practice?
If you want me to.
I want you to.
What do you need, Kate?
I want a copy of that survey. Please.
May I have a copy of that survey, please?
For the last case? Big fish, man. Well, I got people,
Thank you, you too.
I got requests all over the place here. Okay. All right, item 7 on the agenda is Mary C. McDonald. This is held over from our September 5th meeting, October 3rd, and November 21st meeting.
Okay, so you're all gonna have to share one microphone. You'll have to pass it back and forth. We're sorry for the inconvenience of that, but, well, we're stuck. No, but first, you're not getting on the mic, you have to be next to a microphone for anything to happen in terms of the recording system.
Do we re-swear ourselves in?
No, but you're gonna need to identify yourselves,
Albert Margaritas.
okay?
John Margaritas.
And Carol Margaritas.
And were you all sworn in previously?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna hand these out.
Why don't you just give them to our attorney and we'll pass them over, okay?
Give the stamp one to Adam. Thank you.
Mr. Grossman?
Thank you. Okay, so maybe you can tell us where we are.
We reduced the size dramatically, I feel, as to the board's recommendation at our last meeting. We have a 2,000 square foot house, and we are looking for a 1,250 square foot accessory structure.
How much?
1,250 square foot. We met with the building inspector. We discussed doing an underground connection, and he told us that that does not conform with an accessory structure, that it had to be above ground. With the look of the property is for my son, and he is very concerned about design because it's for an art studio, and he's very design conscious. So I have this is the way that it appears from the street.
It's still
This
very-
is the way it appears from the street.
It's very big.
But it was initially, how big was it?
You had it as a 5,000 square foot, 2-story building. We turned it into a 1,250 square foot, 1-story building. And it has a entrance, because it's on a very steep grade, it has a small entrance around the back.
And what is the percentage of the revised building, it's the size of the revised accessory building versus the primary structure? What is that percentage?
It's like 60%.
Yeah, I think it's
About 60%?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we are going to need an exact number, so maybe you can follow, unless you can find it somewhere.
It says here that the 1,970 square feet total first and second floor of existing house, maximum of 25% of a 1,970 square feet for the accessory structure would be 492.5 square feet. And the structure is, 1,250 square feet.
Okay, so, yeah, you can do you can do that in a written submission with the percentages, but we think it's roughly 60%?
Yes.
Okay, so I would just need something in writing, stating exactly what that percentage is. So we have it for our
Okay.
Okay, all right. So, much improved, okay? So that's
Yeah,
great.
good effort,
That's great.
absolutely.
And we do appreciate the fact that you put a lot of time and effort into doing this.
I'm good with it.
We appreciate it.
So am I.
We want it to work.
I'm good with it. And we
You want it
reduced,
to work, you want it to work. Your
we
son wants it
we
to work,
no
everybody
longer
wants it to
are
work.
going for a height variance. We're going for one variance just based on the structure. We originally went in for two.
Okay. All right, so no longer any issue with height.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Do we have, on those plans, does it tell you that the height complies?
Yes.
Okay.
When we go into the elevations, it's 6 inches under. It shows maximum of 20 feet, and we're at 19 foot 6 inches.
Okay, and were you able to get those plans signed and sealed and stamped and everything? Did you have a copy of those?
No, I don't have a copy
Yeah.
here. The
But he didn't
engineer was away, and
Okay.
we did a last-minute modification to the last set. There was some language that was wrong, and we modified that. So I have the final sets, but I don't have the stamps on them.
Okay,
so
so
just
we
get
would just need to
those, yeah.
submit that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right. Any other questions from members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of McDonald? If not, I move that we close the public hearing this evening for all purposes, and I will have a decision ready. It's closed except for the written submissions, what we discussed. So the percentages and just the signed and stamped plans. And I will have a decision at our next meeting, which is January 16th.
Thank you.
Mr. DeCessa? Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn? Aye. Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thank
Take
you
care.
for your service.
Thank you. No problem. You too. Do Do we want to take a short break before we, okay. We're going to we're going to take a short break, just for like 5 minutes. Sorry.
2.5 hours already.
Okay, here we go.
Item 8 on the agenda is
You're back
James
on.
Morrissey. This is held over from our December 19th, 2019 meeting.
Good evening.
Good evening.
If you can give us, you can just state your name.
My name is James Morrissey.
Okay, and I believe you were sworn in previously?
Yes.
Okay, so if you could just tell us where we are with the application.
The last time I came back, I proposed a 28-foot by 28-foot garage on my property, and you had said it was too big.
Okay.
So what I wanted to do was I wanted to build a 22-foot by 22-foot garage with
Okay.
a bedroom and bathroom above it.
Okay. I want to ask you the same question I asked the previous applicant. Do you know the percentage, the revised percentage?
Yeah, I approximately know the percentage. It's about 60% of the size of my house. If you're not going to include the hallways and the bathroom on the second floor and the voided out spaces.
Okay.
I could get the whole building, if you don't include the bathroom upstairs,
Can you speak up?
to be about 730 square feet, because I figured 22 times 22 is 484.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna have about a 250 square foot apartment upstairs. So 484 plus 250.
Okay. All right.
Do you have a diagram showing the way that the apartment's being, and the building?
I have everything put on the plans, but
Okay.
the 28-foot by 28-foot garage, I was just gonna redo a 22-foot by 22-foot garage, the exact same garage but smaller.
And then you did see that to submit that to us. I guess
Yeah,
that's
I
what
wasn't gonna have the architect draw it up unless
Oh, unless you knew.
you guys said yes.
But we have to see it before we can make a decision.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. It's the exact same garage I was gonna do before, except it's 22 feet by 22 feet instead of 28 by 28. I wasn't gonna tell the architect to draw it
And
up.
the numbers that I'm looking at here are no longer the
Katie.
correct numbers, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have sheets with the new numbers?
He hasn't drawn up the plans yet. He wants to see if the board is
I
happy
wanted
with
to
the
see if you
plans.
said yes before I had the architect draw
Before he
up the
spends a
plan.
pound of money, he wanted to make sure we're good with,
I
good
wish
with
that
it.
we could
Isn't
have
it the practice of the building department to allow a two-car garage even if it exceeds the percentage?
I'd like to have
Unless it's excessive, and that's why I say, I think they went
Well-
28 by 28, but 22 by 22 would be a standard garage, is that?
Yes, but now he's putting an apartment on top of it.
Correct, but that's the only, but the 22 by 22, if he wasn't doing an apartment, they would let him do that even if it exceeded
Well, somewhere I
25%.
wrote down what Mike said was a
Right?
typical
That's my
garage.
understanding?
Is that it? Yeah.
Right, 22, something like that.
Bless you.
Yes.
But it's because of the accessory apartment that it makes it a
Yes.
little bigger.
Yes.
But the garage itself could be there. So, okay.
Yes.
Are you able to do anything with the driveway? Can you connect them? Can you make one driveway?
I could make it a big circle.
Okay. That would help, because it would reduce another factor of relief that you would need.
I could do that. Driveway's no problem.
Okay.
All right.
I would be fine with the 22 by 22 with the one driveway. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
I'd just like to see those plans done.
I'm saying subject to the plans, but
But,
to
I
give him
mean,
the
I'd like-
go-ahead to do the plans.
Instead of closing the hearing today,
I'm fine with it too.
I would like to see it with the numbers.
Could I just say one thing?
No, what,
Yeah.
he's looking for advice before he pays the architect to redo it. So I'm saying,
If he
I'm good in
does it,
theory,
then-
let's see the plans at
Yeah,
22 by 22.
Yeah.
But,
But Helen wants to keep the public hearing open. and
I
have
would
him come
like
back.
to,
Oh.
if other people will agree with me.
Do we want him to have him come back?
Do you mind coming back just one more time with
Well,
those in
Hold
here?
on, Helen, let's see where other board members are. Do we want the applicant to come back?
I would be fine with written submissions.
So would I.
I'm fine with the written subs. We'll review 'em.
Okay.
You all right with that, Brian?
I'm just, what would the concern be, Helen, just
Well,
at the
you know,
size?
it's what people say and what I see.
No, I agree, we want to see it on paper
But
and on
I-
the survey.
If we have a concern with what's in the written submission.
We can have him come back.
We can reopen. We can always reopen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna comply with the height.
And
it's
with the
gonna comply-
driveway, it's gonna, issues gonna.
Yes, ma'am, the driveway is no problem with making a circle driveway. That's the smallest issue that I have.
What helps us, because one less thing of relief, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
The driveway's the easiest. It's
And did you
nothing.
see what Dennis wrote? Do you think that's any issue that he should take care of?
I forgot what Dennis wrote.
The plans for the main dwelling shall be sealed, signed,
Yes.
and dated.
He's gotta give us the
Is that
signed
something
plans.
that we discussed with him the last time?
Yep.
Did you see that, what Dennis wrote? Or do you need me to give you a copy?
We need a set of sealed
Let me-
architectural
let me give
plans
you
for the
mine.
main house, for square footage, yeah.
You have that? I'll give you my copy. Yeah, see on the
Right.
bottom
Well,
what the
you'll just
building
need,
inspector
you'll need to
said.
submit those with the revised drawing of the garage and accessory apartment.
Okay. And signed and stamped by the person who did it. Okay. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's it.
I
Okay,
did
Mike, what
have
do you
one-
got?
I did have one question, and that is, I was there today, and should there have been a sign posted for today's meeting or not, because this was a continued? Okay, because I didn't see a sign.
Wouldn't need to be.
You
Okay.
never asked that before, right?
Did I?
You
Bless
never asked
you.
it
Bless
before.
I've never asked that
On a
before.
holdover.
No, I thank you. I'm still learning some things, and the fact that there's not a sign.
What do you got for a motion over there?
Hold on, I have a question.
We do the
Kenny's got a question.
I have a question.
Hold on.
Posting is for
Katie
the
has a
original. Right.
question.
I just want to know, with the shrinking of the garage, will it change the principal front yard setback at all? Or if it does, you need a revised survey?
No, it won't change
Okay.
it.
You're leaving it in the same spot, just make. where
Oh,
you-
yeah, we need a revised
You'll
survey.
show us when you, but
Yeah, it's just
if
gonna be
it
smaller.
does change, when you measure it, if it changes the setbacks, you'll need to reflect that, right, Katie?
Yep,
Yeah, you're gonna need a revised survey.
You're gonna need a revised survey.
you're gonna need it anyway for this, for the reduction.
Draw the surveyor draw the garage onto the
On the
property.
plan, that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
So all right?
Yep.
I think so.
So I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing, leaving it open for written submissions. How long will it take you to get this done comfortably?
2 weeks?
2 weeks, so that would mean that we could put this on the decision calendar if you have us everything by January 30th. We'll be able to put it on the decision calendar for February 6th. All right? If we have any questions, we'll get back to you. But if you have everything to us by January 30th, as long as
I don't either.
If you need more time.
all the
call
information,
Candace,
yeah.
We'll put it on.
Okay, so there'll be another meeting here, January 30th?
Nope.
Oh.
No.
No, it's all written submissions, so you'll submit it to.
Oh, to Candace.
To Candace.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And then the decision.
By
will
that
be-
date.
By that date,
And then
by-
we'll be able to give you a decision on the 6th of February.
Yes, sir.
And you don't need to be here for the decision. We read it at the end of our meetings, and then you can call Candace in the morning.
Yes, sir.
and that's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you for being here and for your patience with being the last person.
Thank you very much.
No problem at all. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I have amended decision in the matter of the application of Vlatko and Dragana Vlatkovic, 582 Watermill Town Road, Watermill, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-45-2-6.4. On December 5, 2019, this board, by decision number D019159, granted relief from Town Code 330-11, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, to legalize habitable space on the third floor attic of an existing dwelling on property located at 582 Watermill Town Road in Watermill. By letter dated December 30, 2019, Robert Fischetti, Esquire, attorney for the applicant, requested that the decision be modified throughout to refer to the square footage of the third floor as totaling 347 square feet, where the decision noted 310 square feet. Mr. Fischetti submitted a letter from Olivia Cellini, PE of Malovia Group, who confirmed that the square footage of the third floor finished attic space is 347 square feet. As such, this board hereby amends ZBA decision number D019159, dated December 5, 2019, to refer to the size of the third floor space as 347 square feet. Excuse me, all of the provisions and conditions of decision number D019159, dated December 5, 2019, remain in full force and effect.
Do we have a second? Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa. Chair votes aye.
I have a determination in the matter of Fernando Lionel Pacquiao, 18 Knoll Street, North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-61-1-87. I will read the relief at the end. The subject property contains 14,313 square feet in the R40 zoning district. The premises benefits from a certificate of occupancy C10701 dated March 17th of 1987 for a pre-existing one-story, one-family concrete block building, dwelling, sunroom, deck addition. The board finds it to be type 2 pursuant to SECRA. After Shannon McCaffrey of Due East Planning are agents for the applicant, who stated the applicant would like to legalize an accessory apartment that existed in the basement prior to his purchase. After feedback from the board, the plans were redesigned to remove a bedroom from the apartment to conform with town code. The board is in receipt of a letter dated December 5th of 2019 from Nile Oza, noting the first floor has 2 bedrooms and totals 942 square feet, and the apartment was modified to also include 2 bedrooms, totals 690 square feet, making it 73% the size of the dwelling. It does meet the 5-part test. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the town code to legalize an apartment located in the basement of the main dwelling without the benefit of a building permit. 1, Town Code Section 330-11.2F, accessory apartment special standards. To allow the accessory apartment to be located on a parcel that has a lot area that is less than 20,000 square feet. 2, for lot area of 14,313 square feet where 32,000 square feet is required, 80% of the required 40,000 feet. 3, for lot width of 68.86 feet where 105 feet is required, 70% of the required 105. 4, for a principal minimum side yard setback of 11.7 feet where 14 is required, 70% of the required 20. 5, for the principal total side yard setback of 24.9 feet where 42 feet is required, 70% of the required 60. 2, Town Code Section 330.11.2G1 to allow the total floor area of the accessory apartment to be 73% where a maximum of 35% is permitted. This board also grants relief from Town Code Section 330.83C yards to allow a 5-foot eave constructed without the benefit of a building permit to remain on the front of the dwelling where a maximum projection of 18 inches is permitted under Town Code. Section 330.77G, placement of accessory buildings, structures and uses in all districts, to allow air conditioning units installed without the benefit of a building permit to remain at the side yard setback of 7.5 feet where 10 feet is required. This relief is granted for structures as shown on the plans prepared by Nile Oza, architect, revised November 26, 2019, and the survey prepared by Martin Donald Hand of Hands On Surveying dated September 18, 2018, last revised July 15, 2019. Granted, the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including, but not limited to, an accessory apartment application form.
Second. Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
And Mr. Daly.
I abstain. I was not at this hearing, and I did not have the benefit of seeing any of the testimony or reading about it.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill. Aye. Chair votes aye. I have a determination in the matter of the application of Hampton Cove Realty for 4 Penny Lane in Hampton Bays. Based upon the application and all the documents contained in the board's file, including testimony and evidence received at the public hearings on this matter, the Zoning Board of Appeals finds and determines as follows. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330.116 extension as it relates to 330.167B1A, specific types of variances to permit the expansion of a nonconforming use to it, to legalize the conversion of a garage into a cottage without the benefit of a building permit on a parcel improved with 1 2-bedroom cottage with deck and 4 1-bedroom cottages with porches. The premises, I indicated the address, and the tax map number I think I said, but it's 900-323-26.1. The premises is comprised of approximately 55,735 square feet and is located in the RWB/R20 zoning district. So it gets partly in one, partly in the other. The premises benefits from CBA decision 10 57 dated December 17, 1962, to expand the buildings to a degree not greater than 1,148 square feet. 2, ZBA decision number 4269 dated July 16, 1975, to erect a one-story frame two-car garage with reduced setbacks. 3, ZBA decision number 5809 dated May 16, 1980, to subdivide the premises with 4 cottages on Lot 1 and moving the last cottage to Lot 2, noting there shall be no further request for addition of dwelling units on either parcel. And 4, pre-existing certificate of occupancy number C-16239 dated November 18, 1994, for 1 two-bedroom cottage with deck, 4 one-bedroom cottages with porches, 1 detached two-car garage, and 1 pump house. Applicant took title to the premises by deed dated December 7, 2006 by John and Paula Paterno. John Paterno is the president of Hampton Cove Realty LLC. This board finds the property to be unlisted pursuant to SECRA and coordinated with the Planning Board, the DEC, and Suffolk County Department of Health Services. The Planning Board issued assumed lead agency, and on July 11, 2019, adopted a conditional negative declaration which identified potential environmental issues which would be avoided or substantially mitigated by 1, making the 6th cottage an affordable rental unit under the town's workforce housing program, and 2, installing a new innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment system for the entire site. At the public hearing, Kevin Springer of Dynamic Legal Services appeared on behalf of the applicant, stating that the applicant seeks to legalize the conversion of a garage into a 6th cottage. Mr. Springer maintained that the conversion was completed by a prior owner approximately 25 years ago and has been in existence since then without incident. He explained that the neighborhood is comprised of a mix of single-family and multifamily residentially developed parcels, and that the increase in density would be mitigated by the installation of an upgraded septic system and would not be perceived as the cottage is housed in an existing garage. Further, he testified that the Planning Board would require compliance with the workforce housing program, which would provide affordable housing on the premises. He asserted that the legalization of the additional cottage is a benefit to both the applicant and the community, noting that a new septic system would be installed, and asserting that the application is similar to others granted by this board, including in the matter of Citron 19 and in the matter of Denkis. After discussions with the board about subdividing the lot as was contemplated in a prior ZBA decision, Mr. Springer testified that he was advised by the county that it was not possible. However, he did not submit anything in writing from the county to this effect. This board is in receipt of a referral report dated December 13, 2018 from the Planning Board, noting that the existing cottages exceed the permitted density and stating that the Town Code requires compliance with the Long Island Workforce Housing Act and Town Code 216-9 and the installation of the new IA septic system. This board is also in receipt of a letter dated October 24, 2018 from the Chairman of the Conservation Board stating that the project is eligible for a letter of non-jurisdiction and there is a concern legalizing the conversion and its effect on Penny Road. There was no opposition to this application. In order to grant the relief requested, an applicant must demonstrate pursuant to 330-166C of the Town Code that the proposed variance meets the standards set forth in that section, as well as the standards set forth in 267 B of New York State Town Law. Further, the applicant must demonstrate pursuant to 330-166C of the Town Code that the proposed variance meets the standards as set forth in that section, as well as the standards set forth in 267B of New York State Town Law. Under this set of facts and circumstances, this board finds that the applicant has not met the standards required in order to grant variances to legalize the expansion of this nonconforming use. Not only was the garage converted without the benefit of a building permit, but the expansion was done in blatant disregard of ZBA decision number 5809 that allowed the premises to be subdivided with 4 cottages on Lot 1 and 1 cottage on Lot 2, noting that there shall be no further request for the addition of dwelling units. This decision indicated that the board was moving the use on the lots towards conformity, with a single-family dwelling on Lot 2 in a conforming location located on the R20 portion of the premises, and the remaining 4 cottages located on Lot 1 on the RWB portion of the premises. This board finds that adding additional density to the premises is inconsistent with its prior decision and will result in a detriment to the neighborhood and community and cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, as the preceding use already pre-existing use already exceeds the permitted density. Applicant maintains that any detriment can be mitigated by the upgrade to the septic system and offering one of the cottages as affordable housing. However, those are requirements of the town code when the uses are permitted. Here, the use on the premises is non-conforming, and this board finds that increasing the degree of non-conformity and density on this single lot cannot be mitigated. While the applicant is correct that relief was granted by this board in the In Ray Denkis application to increase density on a lot that benefits from a pre-existing non-conforming use. The use on that property was for a transient motel, not cottages, and the lot was almost twice the size of the subject premises. Further, as discussed at one of the hearings, the application of Citron 19 involved the change from one non-conforming use to another, and not as here with the expansion of a non-conforming use. This board likewise finds that there are alternatives to the requested variances, namely to effectuate the subdivision as approved by this board in 1980, or to propose an expansion that does not increase the density of the premises. Further, this board finds that the request for relief is substantial, considering the premises already benefits from a pre-existing certificate of occupancy for 5 cottages. This board also finds that the granting of the variances will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions within the neighborhood. Lastly, the difficulty is self-created, as the garage was converted and the density was increased without the benefit of a building permit and or approval from this board to expand the non-conforming use. Therefore, this board denies the request for relief to legalize the conversion of the northerly garage to a cottage. As such, the structure must return to its size, location, and use approved by this board by ZBA decision number 4269 dated July 16th, 1975.
Second.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill. Mr. Daly.
I abstain. I was not present for the last meeting.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I have a decision in the matter of Jamel Hawkins Jr. at 105 Hayground Road in the town of Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-84-1-41, CR 40 zoning, type 2 under SECRA. At the public hearing, Jamel Hawkins, property owner and applicant, testified that he purchased the property from the neighbor to the west and would like to construct a new house and pool. Mr. Hawkins testified that the lot is irregularly shaped, and as a result, it would be very difficult to construct a residence on the premises without needing some type of variance. Mr. Hawkins advised that he limited the size of the proposed structures to reduce the amount of the variances needed. The board is in receipt of architectural renderings made by Stephen Rossetti, architect list revised November 13, 2019, as well as a survey made by JM Land Surveying, last dated December 20th, 2019, which show all proposed improvements. There was no opposition to the application. Neighbor Raymond Whalen spoke at the public hearing and requested some screening be installed on the east line of the property. Mr. Hawkins agreed and submitted written confirmation. He will maintain evergreen screening along the east line of the property with a minimum height of 6 feet. Therefore, and for the reasons set forth herein, this board grants applicant relief from Town Code 1 for the proposed 2-story dwelling, section 330-84D, for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 831 cubic feet, a minimum side yard setback of 10.1 feet where 15 feet is required, a total side yard setback of 25.5 feet where 40 feet is required. And 2, for the proposed swimming pool, section 330-11, for an accessory distance from street setback of 40.1 feet where 60 feet is required, and section 330-76D and section 330-83C to allow the swimming pool to be located within the required front, minimum side, and total side yard of the principal building. 3, for the proposed patio around the swimming pool, an accessory side yard setback of 5.5 feet where 8 feet is required, and section 330-76D and section 330-83C to allow the patio to be located within the required front, minimum side, and total side yard of the principal building as shown on architectural renderings made by Stephen Rossetti Architect, last revised November 13, 2019, as well as a survey made by JM Land Surveying, last dated December 20th, 2019, The grant of the foregoing relief is conditioned upon applicant and all subsequent owners installing and maintaining evergreens a minimum of 6 feet high, spaced approximately 6 feet apart along the east line, and obtaining all other necessary permits and approvals by the town.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa? Ms. Burgess? Mr. Tudhill? Mr. Daly?
I abstain. I was not at the meeting, and the video is not available for viewing before tonight's meeting.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, I have a decision to manage the application of Margaret N. Conklin Revocable Trust, 25 Narrow Lane, Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-81-2-24. Extensive decision, but I'm gonna cut to the chase so you guys understand. One of our concerns and questions was whether it was a single and separate lot. We were able to determine that through the public hearing process. It passes the 5-part test, so I will read the relief that we're gonna. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions in the town code for a proposed 2-story dwelling. Town Code 330-11, residential district stable dimensional regulations for a principal front yard setback of 25 feet from the easterly and westerly lot lines, Scuttle Hole Road and Narrow Lane, where 80 feet is required. A principal minimum side yard setback of 16.5 feet, where 30 feet is required, and 29.3 feet from the northwesterly side lot line where 30 feet is required. A total lot coverage of 12.4%, where a maximum of 10% is permitted. Town Code 330-83B yards to allow the second floor balcony to project more than 8 feet into the required front yard, and Town Code 330-84D pyramid height for a proposed encroachment in the manner of 261 cubic feet. It's a constrained lot too, if you guys remember the whole story. These variances are granted for structures and plantings shown, we'll have some plantings go on. Plantings shown on the survey prepared by Lester Holden of Squires Holden, Weisenbeck and Smith. Surveyed May 20, 2014, last revised October 31, 2019. The floor plans and elevations prepared by Lisa R.E. Zaloga, architect, dated July 30, 2019, last revised October 17, 2019. This decision is also conditioned upon the following screening. The applicant and all subsequent owners of the premises must maintain the existing vegetation as noted on the survey as property limit of clearing, which includes 4 black cherry trees ranging in caliper between 8 and 12 feet, and between 20 feet and 30 feet tall, as well as 3 locust trees that have 10 to 15-inch calipers and are also upwards of 30 feet tall within the area between the neighboring properties and the premises. 2, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant and all subsequent owners must install and therefore maintain a row of at least 8 to 10 feet tall green giant arborvitaes along the northeast and northwest property lines. And 3, the applicant and all subsequent owners must revegetate the area to the south of the proposed residence with appropriate native plantings. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired and may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
I abstain.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Do we have, was it?
Corellis?
Yeah, DeCorellis?
No.
Does anyone have that decision?
I don't believe so.
No.
Okay, then I would make a motion that we adjourn the decision on DeCorellis until our January 16th meeting.
Second.
Second.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle. Ms. Burgess. Chair votes aye. Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor? We are closed.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.